Senator Cassidy.
You know, I'm a physician, so I look at things empirically. I have to admit that some of what has been said does not seem, and I mean this by no offense, some of what has been said does not seem to be empirically hold up. I mention that because this is such an important issue, and it can't be kind of, don't we wish this would be reality? It has to be the reality. And I will point out that if you look at that portion of our usage, which is the industrial base of the grid, that is mobile. And if you increase the cost of their input, they move, and they move their jobs overseas. Indeed, since 1994, when the EU cap and trade and the U.S. regulatory system began on carbon, industry moved to China. And the increase in emissions by China exceeds the decreases in the EU and U.S. put together. Carbon leakage. And you can see what happened in Great Britain. They've achieved their success principally by the employment of natural gas versus coal, and by carbon leakage. Now, carbon leakage means you're moving to China, which has coal as 63% of its fuel base, despite voluntary regional cap and trade systems, to China, which continues to build, I think they're building coal-fired plants, not only in their own country, but in 17 other countries simultaneously. They show no true commitment to this. And a carbon tax, we'd have to have a border adjustment carbon tax, aside from WTO problems, empirically is going to be complicated because of international supply chains. Let me just say that as a preamble, because this is too important to kind of hope. It has to be something embedded in empiricism. And empirically, frankly, Mr. Bryce, you seem to have it most. No offense, sir, but if we look back and said 15 years ago we're going to have a national, not market-driven, but a national kind of priority, natural gas was $13 per MCF 15 years ago. Natural gas would not have been part of your fuel base because at that time, industry was moving their fertilizer plants to Chile because they could not afford $13 per MCF. Now it's $2.50, and that same natural gas plant is moving back. So I think empirically, I think market forces are going to be that which is most. And the renewables, it depends on how you define renewable. I understand renewable can be nuclear because it's always there. It can be natural gas because, gosh, it always comes out of the ground. It could be wind and solar. But I think I know the physics limit the solar and wind from achieving anything beyond a marginal improvement in generation. Mr. Bryce, any kind of comment on that?
Well, just a couple ones, which is that when you're talking about, I have solar panels on the roof of my house. I have 8.5 kilowatts of solar on the roof of my house. Solar is growing and growing rapidly. I'm bullish on solar, but it still has major land requirements. Wind energy, they're reaching the limit. It's known as the Betz limit in physics, which limits the amount of energy they can harness from the wind. So the only way to dramatically increase energy production from wind energy is by increasing the footprint of the wind turbines. And as I testified, this backlash against the wind energy's encroachment is happening coast to coast. And it's happening in my home state of Oklahoma. I talked to the mayor of Hinton, Oklahoma 3 days ago. They got sued by NextEra Energy because they passed an ordinance that prohibited the construction of wind turbines within 2 miles of their town's borders. So they beat NextEra, but I agree with you, sir, in terms of the growth of natural gas. It's really a truly American success story. Just to give you a couple of quick metrics, just the growth in gas production in the U.S. from 2005 to today is roughly 44 billion cubic feet per day. That's 2 times Iran's gas output. It's 4 times Saudi Arabia's output.
So the degree to which the U.S. exports natural gas and coal India and China use our natural gas versus their coal is the degree to which we will achieve significant decreases in global greenhouse gas emissions. By the way, let me also point out that if you look at the academic journals, all of China's coal-fired plants on the Pacific coast emit SOx and NOx that blows over the Pacific and lands on our Pacific coast. So the idea that we're going to somehow increase the price of energy on the grid and industry will not move to China and we won't have SOx and NOx blown over on our country, I think empirically is wrong. So I do think natural gas is the way to go. Let me also say, I've never done this before, Madam Chair. I would like to submit a YouTube video for the record.
Be capable of receiving that?
I don't know that. But it's by Michael Schellenberger, who is a former involved with the Obama administration, who now goes on and says, listen, if we're going to achieve a carbon-free future, it cannot be solar and wind because the footprint required is requiring destruction of Joshua Tree, pulling turtles out of the ground, all of whom die, or cutting a forest, and that footprint cannot be expanded much further. Therefore, he, if you will, working with the Obama administration, has said that we cannot go in that direction if we wish to achieve our goals. That said, thank you all for your testimony, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator. We'll figure out how we put that video into the record, but thank you for that. Let's go to Senator Hirono.